How to know if you're actually training hard enough. This is going to be episode 2 of my gym fundamentals. We started off with what to do day 1 at the gym. Now we're getting into a slightly more advanced topic, which is how hard to push yourself when you're working out. Because there's a big discrepancy, as I said last video, with people that go to the gym and people that actually get results. One of the factors that differentiates this person from this person is how hard you actually train. And my answer to this might surprise you. So give me 4 to 5 minutes, I'll break this down, you'll know exactly how hard to train to get the results you want. Now, in order to train hard, you need a few things. A lot of this comes down to preparation. You can't perform at your best unless you've prepared to perform at your best. You can't get that maximum effort that we're going to talk about in a second if you haven't taken the steps prior to enable your body to achieve it. So we need a few things. Number 1, we need to be well fueled and hydrated. So you need to have eaten before you work out. If you're someone who trains really early in the morning, obviously you can't do this. You can move on to the next steps. But ideally, you've eaten, you've drunk quite a bit of water before you start working out. Your body needs to be fueled. It needs nutrients and it needs hydration. Another thing you need is rest. You need to be well rested and recovered when you go to the gym. If you've only had a couple of hours sleep, doesn't really matter what you do during that workout, it's not going to count for much. So you need adequate rest. So you've done those 3 things, you get to the gym, you're about to start working out. How do you know how hard to work, how much to push yourself? Typically, I'll do 4 to 5 exercises, and for each exercise, I'll do 2 to 3 working sets. Now, what's a working set? A working set is a set of an exercise where you actually push yourself quite close to failure. Every exercise I do, I'll always start with one feeler set. It's basically a set where you warm into the movement, you use quite lightweight, focusing on the squeeze, the contraction, stretching yourself out, getting yourself comfortable with the movement. After you do that, then you do your working sets. Now, these working sets, we're always going to push quite close to failure. We're not going to reach absolute failure, we're going to get quite close. A good way to judge it is when you're 2 or 3 reps away from absolute failure. Now, for a lot of people, they treat absolute failure as it's starting to hurt. That's not the case. When I say failure, I mean failure. Let's take a bicep curl, for example. A lot of people treat failure as when their biceps start to burn. That's not what failure is. Failure, I can't say, try saying failure so many times in a row. When you stop being able to do a movement is when you physically can't contract your biceps anymore. You're stuck in the bottom half of the movement. That's it, you're done. You've got no more energy left. That's what I deem failure. So when I say taking a set 2 to 3 reps away from failure, I mean 2 to 3 reps away from I physically can't move my muscle anymore. That's how far you want to take it in those working sets. Now, for a lot of you, this is going to be quite an unusual change in your training. I see a lot of people going through the motions, they work out until something starts to hurt, then they put it down. So you may not know when you're 2 to 3 reps away from failure. A good little cheat code I devised is when something starts to really hurt, you've usually got about 5 more reps, clean, and then the form starts to break down a little bit. So when something starts to really hurt, I tend to count down from 5, and that's how I know when to stop. If you can align that with the amount of reps that are prescribed in the 8 to 12 range, then you're doing quite well. So for most of our muscle building work, we're going to be in that 8 rep to 12 rep range, and we want to line up our failure number in that range somewhere. This is going to take some getting used to. The good part about this is typically people are stronger than they think. They tend to pick up a lighter weight, and you'll be surprised by the fact that you can actually push past that 8 to 12 rep range. What we're going to gun for is near failure in the 8 to 12 rep range for most things. Now, in terms of training hard, every workout I'll tend to incorporate what I call an intensity technique. I'll make some more videos about these, going in depth as to what they actually are, but I'll give you an example so you know what I mean. An example of an intensity technique is something like a drop set. Most people know what a drop set is, but I'll explain it anyway. So when you do your working set at a certain weight, you reach near failure, put the weight down, and you reduce the amount of weight you're lifting by about 1/3, and you keep going, you squeeze out a few more reps. That adds a little bit of extra intensity, and therefore drives a little bit of extra muscle damage and growth. The important thing to remember with these intensity techniques is I'll only ever add about 1 per workout, in the first movement or towards the end of the workout with one of the last movements. So let's just do a quick recap of intensity. I typically do 4 to 5 exercises, 2 or 3 working sets each. In those working sets, I'm typically aiming for 8 to 12 reps, and within that 8 to 12 rep range, I want to reach near failure. So it's getting quite hard. I've got about two reps left, maybe. That's the range I want to reach. It should be quite painful. Then each workout, I'll typically incorporate an intensity technique. An example would be a drop set, and I'll go into more examples in further videos. If you follow this to a T and you take your workouts to this degree of intensity, you'll achieve a lot more results than you probably are right now. Now, some of you might be saying, Mike, isn't that overtraining? I'm training too much. 10 to 15 working sets, pushing near to failure, that's too much. I'm gonna hit you with some stone cold truth right now, okay? In reality, most people don't push anywhere near failure. I've trained a lot of people in my life. I've seen a lot of people train. I've coached them personally. Most people do not push themselves. So when it comes to taking your working sets to near failure, I promise you, you're not working as hard as you actually can. I know that sounds harsh. I know you're thinking, he hasn't seen me train. The amount of people that have said that to me, then I've trained with them and they've been a little fucking bitch during the working sets and quit way before they needed to, tells me that you need to hear that advice. You can work harder in your sets, you can. Almost everyone I know undersells themselves in their set. They treat their working sets like a counting exercise. They say, oh, my program says 10 reps, and they do their 10 reps, and they say, that's 10, put it down. Don't fucking do that. The reason why I developed results so quickly and blew past all the people who started the same time as me is because I actually pushed myself. I pushed myself, and I backed it up with nutrition and rest. If you don't push yourself, you're not gonna break down your muscles. If you don't break down your muscles, they're not gonna rebuild bigger and stronger. Intensity is the key. So that's your second lesson in the gym. I've taught you what to do on day one. I've taught you how hard you should be training, how far to take your workouts. This is gonna carry you quite far on your gym journey, but we've still got a long way to go. So if you got some value here and you wanna see the next episode, hit subscribe. I'm gonna be dropping these pretty much every day. I'll see you in the next one.